Welcome to Better Odds Sports Betting. Here's our hosts, Kev O'Neill and Kyle Hunter.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Better Odds Sports Betting. I actually am with Mr. John Ryan Sports that you can find over at Sports Memo Wager Talk. And we're going to talk some NFL draft today. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Kev. Thanks for having me on the show. As always, it's always a pleasure getting together with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been a little bit, and it's fun. We're in the off season now. NBA's rolling. You got Major League Baseball, always the UFC, pretty much almost every weekend now. And it's a little bit of a break because I'm just so into NFL football and college football during the fall, and then obviously in the winter, spring, I'm just so into college basketball. So I'm still grinding away every morning, but I get a little break and I get to look at things like the draft, and it's real exciting for me to talk about the draft because starting to get that NFL itch, John.
Yeah, I mean the NFL is for us. It's really right around the corner. I know you start working on college football as early as the beginning of June. So for us guys, it's closer than most people think.
Yeah, sure is, man. College football. I mean, I'm already looking into some college football, trying to find some value and trying to. A lot of season win totals aren't quite at yet for college football. NFL's got them out, but I really get into the NFL total market after the draft because you get most of your free agency moves are completed by then, and obviously the draft is completed, so you kind of see where teams fill their holes. But the big day is the schedule too, because you have to see where it all lays out. You'd have to have a pretty big discrepancy, in my opinion, to make a season win total play right now until that schedule comes out. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. Even with some of the hundreds and hundreds of scenarios that could occur during the first 10 picks, Carolina being, I guess, the centerpiece of the whole first 10. I don't think the lines will actually move based on who they take. So I agree with you that it's better to wait.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina can do whatever the heck they want. It's not going to move much unless they land Jimmy Garoppolo or something massive for them. And obviously, every fan in the world wants that to happen. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. But what is your thoughts on this draft class in general? There's been a lot of shade thrown towards quarterbacks. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think it's obviously one of the weaker drafts for quarterbacks, and I'm on the fence with Pickett of Pittsburgh, and I've read both pro and con. This ridiculousness with hand size is probably. I think the scouts are getting too analytical. Very similar to how the managers are trying to manage baseball now. It's not mechanical. You got to have instincts. You got to have feel. You got to meet a quarterback too. Get to know his character. Get to know what type of culture he would fit into. And I think that's where the Patriots have done well over the years. They have built a culture with Belichick, whether you like him or not, where they bring in people that will fit. Not necessarily the best athletes, the best character, the best fit type of situation. But back to the hands, to say that Pickett has small hands, therefore he doesn't translate into an NFL pro is ridiculous, because a guy named Patrick Mahomes has very small hands, and he actually grips the ball entirely different than even you and I would, and that seems to work. Last I checked, he was doing pretty good.
Last time you checked, he was doing pretty good. Yep. Mahomes is small hands compared to quarterbacks, but he was still at 9 inches. I think Pickett's 8 inches, 8.25 inches, or something extremely small. So he wears gloves though, and so he is adjusted to that. I mean, I don't know how you could wear a glove and throw a football. Maybe it's because I never did that. The only gloves I wore was batting gloves, right? Of course,
yeah,
on your hand, but receivers definitely wear the gloves. But man, football, I feel like I need to have the feel of the ball for the touch, But I guess if you're doing it your whole life, that could mean maybe the ball's even better going to stick in those gloves, because those gloves are grips are amazing in NFL gloves.
Yeah, it's basically replacing Stickum from back in the '70s. I always remember, Marcus Hayes had, literally was dripping off his hands, um, and then they outlawed that. But these gloves are so sticky that it makes a huge difference for sure.
Yeah, all those receivers grabbing those one-handed catches.
Yep.
Odell Beckham obviously made that pretty popular. That has to do with the gloves a lot, and it doesn't necessarily get me over the mountain with Pickett. Now, I do think it is overrated to say he's got small hands, but quarterbacks like Kyle Allen that came in with the small hands fumbled a lot, and there's a small correlation there, and that makes me take Pickett completely away from the Panthers, because they got a lot of flack for him fumbling in the media from his small hands. They're probably not going to draft Pickett just because of it at the 6th position, right, John?
Well, I mean, it does translate into spin rates, and that's something that the analytics really is revealing. You take a guy, an old guy like Brady, and his spin rates are still among the top 3 in the NFL. And why spin rates is important, for those that don't know, is that when you throw in cold weather or throw into a stiff breeze, the higher spin rates are going to cut right through the wind as if it's not even there. And that's where these small hands, they don't generate the spin rates that a bigger hand can. And then I see that that's the concern. But how often are you playing in 50-mile-an-hour winds, or to be serious, like 30-mile-an-hour winds? Yeah, in Green Bay, even in Green Bay, what, 2 or 3 games are really windy, where it's going to make a big difference. I'd rather put more emphasis on a kid that wants to win than on his hand size. That would mean more to me as a general manager and a head coach than if he has small hands. But that's why I'm not a general manager, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and we're talking about one quarterback in Kenny Pickett, which had that monster year at Pittsburgh. You also have to wonder how much of that was scheme with the coordinator that just left to Nebraska there. Malik Willis is the other guy that's been talked about. And, ever since the Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson hype, how well they did in the NFL. The Panthers' offensive line is terrible. And, I mean, a lot of mock drafts have them picking Willis. Now, Willis has been destroyed by a lot of people metrically, when they look at his Ole Miss game, and said that, when they play his zone coverage, he's terrible. And I just think that he had a lot to try to overcome at Liberty. He was that team. I mean, Liberty has only been Division I for what, 3-4 years, right? Yeah. And so he was that team for the last 2 years, and I watched him play. He looked pretty good to me. Does that translate into the NFL? Not necessarily, but that also depends upon what you want. A lot of people say that Matt Rule's possibly out the door right now, but at the same time, it was also the GM that made that mistake getting Darnold last year, wasn't it? It wasn't just Matt Rule.
Yep.
And it's the same GM they have this year, because he came in January of 2021. So I almost think that Matt Rule's more on the hot seat than the GM, but at the same time, they're going to have a bad year with that offensive line unless they do something crazy.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I think that's where maybe the Giants actually have a pretty good opportunity here to get an offensive lineman and have good tackles on both sides of the line, maybe for the first time in God knows when. And if they don't do that, I think their fans will be they'll be in a mutiny of monumental size if the Giants don't get protection for their quarterback. And the same thing with the Jets. I mean, you can have the best. Look at Troy Aikman, his first couple years. That always comes to mind with protection. He was getting killed. And then they finally got the guys in to give him protection, and then they won Super Bowls. I know it sounds dumb to say, Kiev, but you can't be successful throwing the ball down the field if you only have a second to throw it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and that's why I always said about quarterbacks for the Bears. They've never worked out, and their confidence is shot, by the time it's year 2, year 3, so they can't even become good if they thought they were good. A lot of it's confidence, and if they can't throw the ball like Rex Grossman couldn't get the ball out of his hands, a lot of the Cade McNown. There's just a lot of Bears quarterbacks that didn't really have a real chance because you don't know what the heck. Look at Ryan Tannehill and what he dealt with in Miami. He was looked at as a terrible quarterback. Then all of a sudden he goes to the Titans. He looks definitely way above average. I wouldn't say he's necessarily top 8 or top 7, but maybe top 10, maybe top 12, right? I think that makes a huge difference. But at the same time, drafting a pocket quarterback's not going to save the Saints, Matt Rule's job or even their GM's job in 2 years. It's like the smart move is a trade down, of course, or at least draft an offensive lineman if you can't. But the NFL's saying gives you 2-3 years. You're not going to get past that. So that's why I think it's very possible they go for a Malik Willis, someone that can check down once and run. And that might be his instruction, because the only way to beat offensive line that's bad is a running quarterback, John.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's intriguing with this draft in the early going. It'll be interesting to watch what the Giants, the Lions, and the Texans even do, because based on what I know so far, they're really not expected to take a quarterback with that pick, only because the quarterback draft is weak this year. It's not like other years. And to your point about Liberty, just think of Carson Wentz. The poor guy, when somebody puts a piece of paper in front of you that's going to pay you $140 million or whatever it is, I think any of us would sign it, right? So it's not his fault that he's making all this money. It's the fault of the Philadelphia Eagles front office. But it seems like every time we think we've got a quarterback coming out of the second tier, so to speak, it just doesn't seem to work. And I'm just wondering whether Malik is going to be the same thing.
Well, first of all, that was even like the third tier with Wentz, because he came out of Division II football. At least with Malik Willis, he's coming from Liberty. That's Division I still, but a Group of 5 conference, right? So he did play Syracuse a couple of years and Ole Miss. Didn't do great at Ole Miss, but did okay. He, like I said, he didn't have a lot of great talent around him. Bunch of nobody's 2-star guys, So that's my excuse, but it's just funny. I just don't see a path to saving Matt Rule's job, no matter what they do, because they don't have that second and third round pick this year, and they really screwed up, I thought, getting Darnold, and it filters down. Huge what's up to Glenn Middleton that checked in with us and says what's up as well, John. So let's get into maybe some of the top 5 players in this draft, or the first selections. Is Aiden Hutchinson the proper minus 200 here for being selected first? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you would think so, but Jacksonville could use a pretty good wide receiver too. And I think sometimes, you take the best available. We always hear that during the draft from ESPN. The best available player is this, and it's really hard to know that that's the best available player at that time, because how many times have we seen a second rounder or a third rounder evolve into an all-pro type of player? So I know Jacksonville would probably take a lot of heat for taking a wide receiver instead of taking the kid from Michigan, but I think the team would be better with Trevor Lawrence, especially if they did. So again, that's the surprise. So I probably wouldn't last more than a month as a general manager with those kind of thoughts. But I think their biggest need is probably wide receiver.
Yeah, Jacksonville's got a few needs. They have Josh Allen already. It's kind of like you have one good extra edge rusher. Are you going to take a shot at a guy that I personally believe that the top 4 edge rushers, at least top 3, are very mixed up. I don't see one better than the other between like Walker, who's the other guy, Thibodeau, right?
Yeah.
I think they're all kind of wrapped up there. And the guy from Florida State is pretty good himself, right? Johnson, I believe his name is.
Yep.
You have George Karafis as well from Purdue, and it's just really mixed there for me. So of course the idea would be to trade down. I think Jacksonville sits
Yeah.
there on their phone, and it's going to tick down to a minute left, and they're going to realize nobody wants to trade up or give them what they want. So that's another problem. But I agree with you completely that you got Trevor Lawrence this year, and what'd you sign in the offseason? Brandon Sheriff, from Washington on guard. That's your only high priced guy you're going to bring in to help protect. I guess they got Andrew Norwell too. Oh no, they lost Andrew Norwell. Sorry, they signed one guard and lost one guard. That's not enough. I say offensive line. Let's pivot over to offensive line. It's funny, they have the two top guys, and I did a mock draft myself, and I'm going to be releasing this on Sunday night.
Cool.
After some minor changes, of course, right? You get news every day. But I think that the Alabama guy, Evan Neal, is the best offensive lineman tackle in this draft. He's 6'8", 360 pounds. He actually played guard his first year in Alabama, which shows you he can run block, he can pull. He replaced Jedrick Wills. I just think that he's trustworthy, and he's got that NFL size. And some other people are saying that the top guy is Iquanu, right? From NC State. He's 6'4", and he looks really good. But who are you going to trust? A 6'4" guy from NC State that graded pretty good, but yet not great in the combine? Or this massive man from Alabama,
I've often thought too, having discussions over beers, right? We always have these edge rushers lining up at the most optimal position, whether it's on the right side of the line or left side of the line or in between the guards. When are we going to have an offensive lineman? And maybe this is the guy who can do it, is Neal from Alabama, where he doesn't play right tackle or left tackle. He plays them both. So when they go to the line of scrimmage, if that edge rusher is on the left side, then he goes to the left side. If he's on the right side, he goes to the right side. Of course, once they're set, then the edge rusher could change. But I've often thought about whether that would ever happen, and it may not. But obviously, as you said, Evan Neal can play any position along the line, which is critical. Because look at the injuries that the offensive linemen go through in the course of a season. Rarely does an offensive line stay intact for 17 weeks. It's bound to happen, and then he can plug in where they have gaping holes from injuries and help fortify everything as long as he himself doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, it's just you ain't going to win the playoffs with a bad offensive line. And it eventually gets to you, and it ruins your quarterback. It's the most important position, in my opinion. So I just think Neal's the better selection, in my opinion, and I think he's going to go. Let's talk quickly about safety, and it's interesting because I have a play to give out that I made this morning on safety. So you look at Hamilton, right? And Hamilton was hyped for a while. Kyle Hamilton, that safety from Notre Dame. Then he gets to the combine. He only runs a 4.6 40. Doesn't grade out that well, and he's losing position, right? And then I look at other safeties in this draft, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't know. I like what he did at Notre Dame personally. Then I look at Daxton Hill, and he's coming in as a safety, and that's what they're going to call him in most sports books. But he can play nickel corner as well. He's just kind of that flexible guy. But then you look at who's the true safety with the size and everything. And then you got to think about Georgia. You got to look at Scene, I believe. And he's coming in off the best defense, in the whole NFL. And his over-under draft number is 34.5. I'm thinking maybe Kyle Hamilton isn't the first safety. Daxton Hill's kind of that either-or guy. I don't see how he gets past the first round. And especially if you get to pick 34 here, you got the Lions there. and the Lions are saying they're not going to draft a quarterback. And even if they do, they need safety help. You got the Bengals there. They need a safety at number, 32, 31, one of those. And then 2 Kansas City picks right there. And Kansas City just lost Sorensen, and they lost the Honey Badger. I love under 34.5 here for a scene. What are your thoughts?
I agree 100%. I think another wild card here is Jaquan Brisker at Penn State. You and I being Big Ten guys. You look at his physicality, almost 6'2", about 200 pounds. And that's really, you don't think of that as an NFL type safety that's going to bring the big hits, but this kid hits. And he hits like a guy that is 6'4" and 220. But, he ran a 4.4 940. I was told that at Penn State he ran faster than that. But instincts again, especially at that position, reading the quarterback's eyes. How much dedication does a player have in the game film room? Like, is he willing to put in the hours and hours to analyze a quarterback's tendencies? Because that's a lot of the responsibility of a safety. Is he going to be great to run stop position in those situations? I think Brisker is a very good run stopper, despite the fact that he's not 220. He knows how to tackle. He's fundamentally sound. And again, if I was a general manager and I was drafting late first round, he would be on my radar.
Yeah, I see him ranked 4th in this Walter Football rankings. And he's pretty big and not bad 4.49, I believe. Yeah, that's not bad for a sizable guy that has good football instincts. So I definitely don't disagree with you. What I love about Lewis Seen, going back to my play, 4.3740. You got to appreciate that. Coming from Georgia, probably a 4 to 5 star recruit. I can't remember, but 6'2", 200 pounds, 32.25 inch span. If he's not drafted in the top 34, somebody's missing out, man, and somebody's going to get some serious value, John.
And that's where the Eagles come to mind, because they need to take their picks, which are, I believe, 17 and 19 off the top of my head. And they need to get linebackers first and foremost. But picking up a guy like Seen from Georgia, you and I both know anybody that started in the SEC is going to translate more times than not, than any other conference there is, to the NFL. And Seen hits hard, and he has to hit hard to be the starting safety for Georgia. That goes without saying, right? But I would, if I had a choice between Brisker and Seen at late first round, obviously it would be Seen first. But if he's gone, then that probably implies too that Daxton Hill is also gone. And Hamilton's the one that I respect all the brains out there that put him the clear pick for a safety position. But there's something about the SEC, and I would make Seen the top pick of all the safeties. So I agree with you on that.
All right, good stuff, man. Anything else that you want to talk about the draft before we pivot?
I just is there a bet for how many trades there will be in the first round?
A prop bet. I should have brought in our guy from my bookie, Ralph. But I'm sure there is going to be that stuff out there. Now, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't quite searched any exotic markets, but it's going to pop up probably on Tuesday or Wednesday about how many trades. If there's a trade, over under on trades, it's probably going to be around 2 or 3.5. Here's the problem. Everybody's going to want to trade down, and there's not going to be a lot of takers trading up. I think the trades will happen in the 20s because somebody's going to be like, oh, God, our guy's still there. And then a team like maybe the Patriots or a team maybe like the Packers with that second pick is going to start thinking, getting more capital, right? I think that's very possible that there's more trades towards the end of that draft. Now, I can't predict a number right now. It's too hard to do that. If it's something crazy like 1.5, I'll go over for sure on that. If it's like 4.5, maybe I go under. But I think 2, 3, or 4 might be fair on that, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, my gut is that there's going to be a flurry of activity, and if that is 3 trades or 4 trades or even possibly more, it wouldn't surprise me. The Carolina situation, I think, is what uh, magnifies that because they obviously need a quarterback. They also need offensive line. They need just about everything on the face of the earth for a football team. So say they would take an offensive lineman at their pick, then that would allow the Jets to relax at I think they picked number 10, right? That's their second pick of the first round. So then they could wait for their guy to kind of fall into their lap. If they don't, and Carolina does something crazy, then that's when the trades could start. Like where you could see the Giants or the Jets or the Eagles actually trade down if the price was right.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's where you can see it. And the problem is not a lot of people are going to reach for a quarterback that we think. I think GMs are being very quiet. I think there's
Yep.
some smoke out there, right? There's some distractions out there that they're throwing out there, but not as much. Last year there was a ton over, obviously, the Trey Lance pick, which is another guy from a Division II school that we have no idea is going to pan out even at a year 2 yet. So very interesting stuff. NBA tonight, my man. What are you thinking about the NBA? I hear you're on a pretty good run.
It's been one of those runs that when I say the records, I say it very quietly on the shows now, because I actually do kind of whisper it. I go, I'm on an 11-1 run right now. I don't want the betting guys to hear it because you know what happens, and they find out that you're getting a little full of yourself and you're humbled pretty darn quick. But it's been a real nice run for whatever reason. My models seem to kick in March and April. And I heard you had a very good run in the NCAA tournament. I think it was what, 64%?
I was 62.5%, just the day one of March Madness. But thank you for bringing that up. Unfortunately,
Sure.
college basketball is gone right now, but you get a little tired of it eventually too. But it was great. And in baseball right now, I'm actually not on a good run in baseball. I'm doing bad right now in baseball. I started out kind of even. I'm a little bit down, but I turned it around last year, so I think I can do it again. It's just I started out small, at least like half stars, 1 star. So I'm glad I
Smart.
started out small when it was just such a short preseason in baseball. But I'm hoping to turn that around. But yeah, congratulations on your great NBA run. Do you have any quick thoughts before we go on the games tonight? Here you have the Hawks +1.5 against the Heat, the Bulls +2.5 against the Bucks. That Middleton's out, I believe, in this, and obviously no
Yep.
Lonzo Ball. But then you have the Phoenix Suns -2.5 chalk at the Pelicans without Devontae Booker or Devin Booker. I call him Devontae sometimes. What are your thoughts about these games?
Well, I do like the Bucks tonight. I think they bounce back. I like the Bulls team. They spread the ball around a lot. They have a great assist to turnover ratio just about every single game. Almost unusual for them not to have five or more players in double digits. But Giannis is that player that can dominate a game from start to finish. His engine never wears out. He never takes a play off. He never even takes a second off. And this is one of those moments where the Bucks need to regain that home court advantage, and also send a little message to the Bulls that you won the last game, but you're not going to win this one. I was surprised that they won outright I guess they were about a 9.5 point underdog. I had nothing on the game,
Yeah.
but I do like the Bucks tonight. They fall into one of those zigzag systems too. That has been, I guess it's 7 years in a row. It is made money now, so it is done well. And if I can just take a second here, I'll quickly pull it up.
Okay.
Well, go ahead and say something while I pull this up here. I don't want to.
Oh, no problem. Well, I was looking. I mean, and I'll throw out something I was looking at. Trey Young is obviously the electric player on the Atlanta Hawks, and I remember when he played for Oklahoma in college. He came in to the NBA with a storm. I didn't expect him to blow up like he did, but The Hawks kind of have their backs to the wall here. They're, like I said, a 1.5-point dog at home. This is going to be Trey Young's game, in my opinion, to do something. I'm not sure if he's going to be passing the ball a lot, but I think he's going to be shooting the ball a lot. And I can see him definitely be hitting some trays tonight. So just like his name. And I like him over his 27.5 points. I think there's a good chance that's going to hit.
Yeah, he has multiple nicknames. Like in game one, he was Ice Trey.
Nice Trey.
Because he had such a bad game. But the betting angle here is to bet on playoff teams coming off a home win, installed as a favorite and covered the spread in that previous home win. They now find themselves priced as road favorites. That's 24-7 straight up, 23-7-1 against the number for 77%. Since the 2016 playoffs, that actually does not support the Bucks, but it does support the. Who does it support? It's it's got to be Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it is Miami. Yep,
Miami in that situation
applies to that one. So, yeah, to your point about Trey Young, yeah, he's another guy that when he gets hot, it's unbelievable, and it's very enjoyable to watch him play. But we're talking about a complete Heat team. And of all the teams in the Eastern Conference, they seem, despite being the number one seed, they seem to be the team flying under the radar that the talking heads aren't really talking about. They're talking about the Celtics. They're talking about Milwaukee. Of course, the Sixers now up 3-0. But there is one thing I'll mention to you, Kev. I'm glad I remembered this because in your time, have you ever seen a game? And this occurred in the Sixers versus Toronto Raptors game 3. The first half line had Toronto favored by a point. The full game had the Sixers favored by 2.5. And I can't recall ever seeing that. And then just last night, Golden State game was the same way. They were a 0.5 point underdog. Granted, not much, but they were underdog. But they were favored to win the game. And the craziness with the Memphis Grizzlies, who I was on, that was my premium pick, so I don't think there was any good handicapping in that one. But the final score was good against the Grizzlies, who, I mean, how do you score 12 points twice?
I lost that bet, and I was at home, Minnesota, and I've already complained enough about it. I'm trying to block it on my head, but seriously, you're at home.
I didn't mean
it's
to bring
funny
it up.
It's like Draymond Green said, there are players that are built for the playoffs and there's players that are built for the regular season, and Minnesota's players and Karl Anthony Towns is not built for the playoffs. Sorry. It's just, it's funny. And they both happened at the end, like the second quarter going into the half and the fourth quarter. It's like, you're the fourth quarter, you're up by 20 points. You're literally going to blow this. And they did, it's just, blows my mind. But going about what you said, the sharp bettors are taking, I think some home underdogs on the first half, and they're not taking the full lines. And I think that's what made Golden State the dog, even though they're favored for the game.
Yep.
And I think that's what it is. They say, well, you look at Curry, he's going to get going in the third or fourth quarter. And I think there's a model that actually kind of matches that. And I'm not a big NBA guy, but I see the lines as well. And that's my only thought, that the reason for the discrepancy, John.
Yeah, and it's logical to think that a team against I don't know what the halftime first half line is for the Atlanta tonight, but we can quick look it up. Let's see, first half line Hawks and spreads. Sure. They are -1.5. So -1.5 to have the lead at halftime. To be leading by 2 or more, and then full game
is -1.5 as well.
Yeah.
So in this situation, it's saying, well, I think you're a little bit better. You're going to lead at half, and I really don't. Yeah, it's funny you're not seeing it like -2.5 or -3 for the full game, right? It's just NBA's creative. It's a little different. It's not my cup of tea personally, and I'm not a premium NBA guy. I am betting a little bit more in the postseason here, but I'm following college basketball year long, and it's funny to point out these discrepancies, and I think it's really interesting. But being that you're on such a tear, John, where could our viewers get that great information you have for them?
I can be found over on the Odds Breakers. We're setting up that profile page, if you will, on your
Yep,
site.
John,
I
you're going to start
appreciate.
blogging for us, and I appreciate that, and I'm excited to see
Yeah.
some of your writing.
And I've been on sportsmemo.com for a long time. I'm humbly I'm referred to as the face of Sports Memo because I do the hosting of the shows. And I have to tell you, Kiev, it's nice being the guest once in a while. There's a lot less things to do. There's no multitasking involved, which I know you know all about being the host. And it's just a great change of pace for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. You've been doing a ton of Sports Memo shows. That's great stuff. But I think you're going to be getting your show back running as well this summer that you've always had.
Manny's Irish Pub. Yep.
Manny's Irish Pub, with the bar in the background. So you'll be doing that daily or on Fridays?
We're going to do it Wednesday and Friday to start.
Okay.
But the goal is to go Monday through Friday and have a panel of a dozen guys that on any given day they're welcome to pop in. So trying to create that pub atmosphere that you're done with your day's work before you go home, you're going to stop off and say hi to your friends, talk some sports betting, and then head out.
Absolutely. Well, you guys make sure you check out John at the Odds Breakers coming soon, at Sports Memo, obviously on his great shows on his Twitter handle at John Ryan Sports 1. John, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. My pleasure, Kiev.
Thank you for watching Better Odds Sports Betting.